This is covering a film festival in the time of Corona. Nothing prepared us for this. In an ideal world, I would probably be in Toronto having this conversation with the fantastic Meera Nair in person, but that wasn't to be. So, for the first time in its history, the Toronto International Film Festival is showcasing its films digitally for international press. That's how I saw A Suitable Boy, the 6-part series, which is the latest that has been directed by Meera. Thank you so much for taking out time for this.
Thank you, Stuti. Nice to see you and nice to see someone from Delhi in my New York rooms. I miss Delhi so much. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine. But you know, you bringing India to the world, this one has got such rave reviews. Everyone's loving it. I know it'll be showcased it'll start streaming on Netflix in some time. But for now, how do you feel?
You know, I feel, of course, very happy that it's come out and embraced so much. A Suitable Boy has been like a 3-year endeavor for me, and it's been strange during sort of remotely finishing it on COVID time, you know, in my little room with 3 devices and my crews in different continents, but we actually managed. So we had a 6-month extraordinary odyssey. So it's lovely to have it out there and lovely to have seen the reviews that came out of UK. But I have to say that I'm most happy about it being on the big screen tomorrow night, all 6 hours of it in Toronto. And on closing night the next day.
Yes. Also, congratulations, you won the Jeff Skoll Award in Impact Media. So that is amazing. And the one to present that was none other than Tabu. You have such a special association with her.
Yeah, she's extraordinary. And it's like, well, I was going to say it's like having a sister in the world, but she's a Maha sister. Matlab ke unki jo kalakari hai na, it's just something almost beyond her own self.
Now, since we're talking Tabu, it's only fair that I ask you this right now. Since I've seen all the 6 parts, Saida Bai, every time she would come on screen, even if it was my laptop screen, she was just electrifying. You know, tell me when you decided on the casting. She was your first choice? You know exactly. Yeah.
She is the only Saida, and believe me that Saida Bai was always for me the cornerstone of Suitable Boy, because everything she represents and her culture and her and her love of the poetry and the singing and the ghazals and the way, of course, Vikram, brings to life Ghalib and Daag and Mir. And so for me, it was the cornerstone of why I needed to make A Suitable Boy in many ways, and there was always only Tabu. Of course, I love and know her from the namesake and from everything else before and after. But she also, has that electrifying mystery about her. And it's basically such fun and such a delight to work together, because this is, as I get older too, I don't want no hassles, baby. Like I want to work with people I love and enjoy. And she's deeply, I will always look for things for her to do, because she needs to be seen. And I love the way she cherishes her art and that she doesn't fritter it away and doesn't do just every jack-all thing. She's so beautifully careful, and it is to our great enjoyment of the audience.
Brilliant. Now we know why Meera Nair loves Tabu, and don't we all? Well, Meera, I'm not alone. Giving me company is this absolutely humongous copy of
they're
Vikram
all there.
Seth,
5 copies.
Yes, Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy. This is huge, okay? And people who love the book would wonder, how did you compress it all in 6 episodes? I want to ask you, since the source material was so much, why didn't you probably decide to have 12 episodes? And how easy or tough was it?
The distillation of that beautiful tome to 8 hours was done before I got involved by Andrew Davies, who's a master craftsman of the genre of the big tomes. He did War and Peace, he did Les Miserables, So I came into the world of pretty much a great craftsman like Andrew. But financing it, and I mean, it was already financed by BBC, but the budget and various other issues made us go down further to 6, and that's when I got much more involved and in the shaping of it, and basically wanted to have it be a greater balance between the personal, the story of Lata and her mother, who was determined to find a suitable boy, and the political, because I thought it would be interesting to see Lata as India, and as India was trying to form itself and plan its first democratic election in 1951, Lata also is on that journey of finding her own voice and her own independence. So that was so the shifting of emphasis of politics and the marriage tale, if you would, was something that was very important to me, and to be also to restore the language. It couldn't be entirely in English. I wanted it to be very much an equal, more organic use of how we are, which is that Urdu, Hindustani, Avdi, English. And of course, Vikram had written about the anglicized world at the time, the Chatterjees, speak in rhyme, and and all of us who did Shakespeare. That, I mean, we were all, it was English soaked. That was the characters. But it's important that the village and Saida and that be integrated. So I brought back the language into it, and the music for me was just the cornerstone foundation. Not just Saida's ghazals, but really the kaleidoscope of India through music was very important. Unfortunately, it wasn't ever planned and could easily have been a 12-part series, but 6 is what we got. So it was about juicing it, at least, to get the saga of the 6.
For those of us back in India who haven't seen it, initially when we saw the trailers, there were some concerns about it. It made sense that you'd cast brown people, that there were Indians who were being cast, but the fact that Indians in an Indian setting speaking in English, how would the accent be? Some found it odd. What do you have to say about that?
I understand that the way we spoke English then is very different, almost unrecognizable to the way we speak English now. Yeah, come on, yeah, let's go there. Come on, what do you say? It's completely different, So, and it's definitely more quote unquote refined, but also Angrezi. Not like the British, accent, but it was that kind of more enunciated English, So I know I got it from my own family. Yaar, how are they talking and all? What do you mean, Amira?
Oh, really?
So, I said, this is really, I mean, we really worked hard to get that, because actors are from Bombay now, they do talk like how we talk now, but the way of speaking was much more clipped then, much more enunciated, basically.
So while the way we speak English, that has changed, but some things haven't, like, especially the very precariously balanced communal harmony that's shown here. A lot of that, the rise of the right wing, a lot of that we're seeing in the India of today, and negotiating that, the mandir, the masjid, and all of that. While directing this, did you also, wonder about how relevant some of the things still are? The fact that probably even now, for a Lata to marry a Kabir would be tough?
For me, that was another big part of wanting to do this now, A Suitable Boy, because it's not a museum piece. It's not just the idealism of India in 1951. It is a mirror of today. And that's, again, the prescience of Vikram's vision and his understanding also of the seeds that were planted at that time, that we are sadly seeing a lot coming to fruition now, but also to weave in Babri Masjid in the way he did in 1990s, when he wrote it, which was the cornerstone of the problem of today, as well as in our story, So for me, that was a vital part of making A Suitable Boy, is for the young today to understand where two things. kahan se kahan aa gaye hain. The syncretism of our culture, the interwovenness, the fact that we are so deeply and for ancient amounts of decades and generations intertwined, the Hindu and Muslim, whether it be our friendships or our language or our music or just our clothing, whatever, you know, which is so now being separated and smashed upon, where it's actually from the same cloth, you know. So that's one thing, to remember that, but also to remember to see where we have come from there to now, which is where, you know, these terrible kind of walls and of tribalism really are being erected, you know, consciously and really really a sort of targeted attack, you know, and so yeah, for me that was an absolutely vital reason to be making a suitable book.
Perfect. You know, your casting, you've spoken about Tabu, but Lata, how did you find her? I think she's such a fine, she brightens up the screen. I love her smile. How do you find her?
Well, it's thanks to, we have brilliant casting directors, and one of them, Dilip Shankar, found Lata, Tanya. Tanya was a copy executive in an advertising agency in Gurgaon, and she sent in a video audition, I think, which I saw. So I looked at it, and I tell you, I was immediately riveted, because firstly, she had these hypnotic eyes, you know, and that face, you know, she was like a miniature, Indian miniature of some sort, but there was a kind of a sweetness that came with a whole lot of intelligence. That it's a rare combination. And when I met her, it was the same, you know, that kind of modesty that was not demure and not coy, but she just is self-possessed. She knows who she is, but in a very kind of self-effacing manner. And then when I put her next to Namit Das, who was a contender for Haresh at the time, and other guys, other suitors, you know, it just like, she lit them up, you know. She was like, you know, definitely, you know, the sparks were beautiful. But mostly it was because she had that dewdrop in action, I call it, you know. It was a big boon to find Tanya Manik.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We've completely run out of time. I have loved you ever since I saw Salaam Bombay. So thank you so much.
I must be 2 years old.
No, I saw it. I didn't see it when it actually came out, but yes, I did. Thank you. And we're waiting to watch it on Netflix.
Thank you. Me too.